And outspeak brave Horatius, the captain of the gate. To every man upon this earth, death cometh soon or late. And how can man die better than facing fearful odds? For the ashes of his fathers and the temples of his gods.
Marisol Reyes was going to have a full day. She packed up her belongings, checked out of the hotel, and then made her way to the parking lot outside. She found her co-workers barely awake, drinking coffee as though it was the last beverage on earth. Together, everyone piled into the van, and the driver carried the team away. The van dropped off Marisol and her co-workers at Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Marisol and her companions dropped off their gear at the employee baggage area, and then reported to their duty stations. Several hours later, Marisol clambered aboard an Airbus A380, prepared for the long day ahead, and put on her best customer service smile. Minutes later, the first passengers boarded the plane. "Welcome to Asiana Airlines," Marisol said. "My name is Marisol Reyes, and I'll be one of your flight attendants today. We hope you enjoy this direct, non-stop flight to Detroit Metro Airport." It took 18 and a half hours to fly from Manila to Detroit. Over the course of the journey, Marisol and her co-workers attended to the needs of 250 passengers, serving food, water, and providing what comforts they could in a pressurized steel cylinder. Babies cried, cranky women complained, someone came down with air sickness, old men rambled on about days gone by, young people asked for the Wi-Fi password. Eventually, the cabin lights dimmed. A few passengers asked for blankets and pillows, and then blissful sleep took nearly everyone on the plane. A few people stayed awake, using their phones or tablets to watch videos. The crew took it in shifts to get some sleep of their own. During her break time, Marisol grabbed her cell phone out of her carry-on bag and checked her email. You have 5 unread messages. Paradox Interactive Forums, 1 hour ago. Asiana Airlines, 4 hours ago. Mama Reyes, 10 hours ago. Archive of Our Own, yesterday. Mariposa Reyes, yesterday. She smiled and opened the most recent email. Her favorite fanfiction author had posted a new chapter of his current story. She bookmarked the webpage, then settled down for a catnap. Finally, after spending 19 hours in the air, Asiana Airlines Flight 2086 landed in Detroit, a large city in the United States of America, about halfway around the globe from Marisol's home. Debarking all of the passengers took about half an hour, and then the flight attendants gathered their own belongings and clambered onto another van together. Marisol and her co-workers stayed awake just long enough to present their Philippine passports to the U.S. Border Patrol, then fell asleep during the van ride to their next destination. The van traveled in silence from Detroit to Flint, a smaller town located in the heart of Michigan. Somewhere around the middle of the night, a van arrived at a hotel near Bishop International Airport. Another Asiana plane was visible at the airport itself, where maintenance engineers were working long hours to make it flight ready. Marisol and the other flight attendants checked into their hotel. Feeling groggy, barely able to keep her eyes open, Marisol stumbled into her hotel room, got inside, and dropped her bags on the floor. Not bothering to remove a single piece of her flight attendant's uniform, Marisol flopped onto her bed, lying face up and holding her smartphone above her eyes. Flipping her thumb absent-mindedly, she scrolled through the Paradox Interactive Forums, looking for a very specific thread. The Last Days of the Emerald Isle, written by Macaulay 116. Marisol loved to read fanfiction. She even dabbled in writing in it as well. Tonight, not only would she fall asleep reading her favorite type of story, but she would drift away reading the latest work of her favorite author. She could not think of a better way to end a day as long and arduous as this one. As Marisol's eyes glazed over and her breathing slowed, she noticed that Macaulay 116 had left an author's note at the top of the chapter, in which he acknowledged the negative review Marisol had left on the previous chapter. She barely read it, skimming just enough words to understand that Macaulay 116 had taken her criticism into account while writing this new installment. She started to nod off. Marisol's phone drooped low and touched her nose. The words on the screen became blurry and hard to read. Marisol adjusted her glasses, trying to read a few more lines before she completely lost consciousness. The phone screen flickered. Marisol tapped it. The Paradox Interactive forums vanished completely, and the screen was filled with a blank space. The words, "Was erwartest du?" appeared in the center of the empty void. "What?" Marisol grumbled, rubbing her eyes and tapping the phone. The words vanished, and then Macavitie's fanfic reappeared. "Ugh, okay," Marisol said to herself. But before she could think or say anything else, a blue light filled the hotel room so completely that Marisol could see nothing else. She groaned and tossed her phone aside, but this did nothing to help. Marisol blinked, and suddenly she was very cold. Marisol was no longer in her hotel room. She was lying flat on her back in a grassy field. The sun was high overhead, and birds were singing all around. Marisol blinked, scrambling to her feet as quickly as she could. She peered over a nearby outcrop and gasped. Just half a kilometer away, Marisol could see Ulster Castle. "Wait, what?" Marisol gasped. No, she could not believe her eyes. Ulster Castle was a location in Ireland, and more importantly, it was from a Macaulay 116 story, the primary setting of the last days of the Emerald Isle. How was Marisol standing outside of its walls? But there was no time to examine her surroundings. A cacophony of noise told Marisol that something serious was happening around her. A loud rushing sound caused Marisol to duck. Then something sailed over her head and alighted itself upon the rocky outcrop she was looking at moments before. It was a fairy. She knew it well because one of the characters in Macavitie's new story was a fairy, one that had snow-white hair and eyes as red as the setting sun. In fact, the fairy, now standing above Marisol, could be described in the same way, flowing white hair and deep red eyes. "Aisling?" Marisol breathed. It was. The Irish mythological creature named Aisling, who played a role in Macavitie's new story, stood here as real as Marisol herself. She started to say something, but Aisling yelled, "Look out!" Seeing Aisling's eyes go wide, Marisol threw herself to the ground. Behind her, there was a bang like a cannon blast. Marisol looked around and spotted something alarming. Standing at the edge of Dermont's private forest, there was a dangerous-looking woman carrying a weapon. Marisol could see she was vaguely East Asian, dressed in a mid-2000s era military uniform, and carried what was unmistakably a modern-day military rifle, an American M14 EBR to be precise. The letters AFUNE could be seen on the woman's bulletproof vest. Her face had a dignified, regal kind of look to it, as though she had royalty somewhere in her family tree. The military uniformed princess held her arms out, as though inviting Aisling to attack. The fairy obliged. "Get out of my way!" Aisling roared before lunging toward her foe. "I won't let you near my friend!" Aisling reached her opponent, and they started grappling for control of the rifle in her hands. As they fought, the military uniformed princess said, You barely understand your role in what lies ahead. Here, let me enlighten you. She pushed Aisling away, then held her left hand to her own chest, just over her heart. Marisol had read so many Macavity stories that she knew what was going to happen next. Instinctively, Marisol tried to warn Aisling. "She's going to throw soul fire at you!" Marisol yelled at the fairy. Aisling looked around and spotted Marisol. "Stay down! I don't want you to get hurt too!" the fairy called back. The military uniformed princess pointed her left hand at Marisol. A cone of purple and blue flames erupted from her hand. The supernatural flamethrower incinerated the meadow as it careened toward Marisol. Aisling thrust herself into the path of danger. She seized Marisol's hand, pulling her along as she ran away. Marisol cried out in terror as the soulfire inferno singed the hair on her forearms. The military uniformed princess lowered her hand, and the soulfire inferno died out. Through the curling smoke, Marisol could see the enemy's face was stoic, trying to hide something. "Hold on to me now!" Aisling cried out. "It's our only way to escape!" "What is?" Marisol responded, and then looked ahead. For just a few moments, Marisol could see a swirling vortex hanging in midair in front of herself and Aisling. It made her think of the wormholes found in Stellaris. Before Marisol could wrap her head around this new development, Aisling tugged her forward and dove headfirst into the vortex portal. With a great crash, some screaming, and a loud snap of breaking metal, Marisol and Aisling fell out of the air and crash-landed in Marisol's hotel room. As soon as both women came to rest, the vortex portal sealed itself and vanished completely.